Hey guys, how's the audio? Does it sound okay in the video? Is it good? Okay, great. Thanks, JD. Okay, so let's get started on first. Let's do a quick review of what we had anticipated for today. So the overnight range didn't tell us a lot in terms of where the market was going to go. We opened right near gap fill, and the plan was out of the gate. Let me pull my drawing tools up. So what I suspected would happen was prior to 9 a.m. we had news, and yes, this is a 3-minute chart just to kind of get some of the detail in that we had earlier. But prior to the news, I figured that we would chop around, and we got a little bit of that right up in here. And then what I find a lot of time, I don't know why, but a lot of this data now is getting leaked early, and the move happens initially. And the plan was, I said, if we chop around prior to the news, that the news will probably be like, quote, our opening. And what we essentially ended up with was an open drive down. But even within the context of the open drive down, each trade location, the one thing I said was I would look to spread my entries on wider rotations, specifically 7 to 8 point rotations versus simply the 6. And so if you look our high here, and let me kind of go in and zoom in on this. And again, this is going to be a little choppy. I usually get the luxury of being able to stop and restart when I'm doing these trade reviews, since I don't do them live. But I'm trying to see if this will help others and myself save a little bit of time in the evening. So if you look, right, our upper rotation was approximately 1779. So the first thing that did, number one, is it kept us out of this zone completely. So we avoided the chop area. 1779, you take away 8 points, right? And that's going to put you roughly at 1771, which gave you very good trade location. I don't remember exactly where I got this trade this morning, but I know that I was somewhere right in this area. And obviously we got a 2-point rotation. Actually, I took 2 and then I took 1 point. So 2 and 1, it gives me a 3 total on half and 2 on the first half. In addition, okay, so at that point of the day, and I just got stopped on that second half of NQ. So actually, they even ran me a little bit. Wasn't that sweet of them? So the trade was done here at this point. So when I get a trade like this, there's nothing more for me to do. At this point, we're still simply testing Globex lows, and nothing terrible has happened. At this point, we can still kind of get either a move up here or move back to the downside. This candle here is clearly what determined. So there's a couple things in here that determined that we might have a problem. The first one was after the rotation, we really consolidated right in this zone. These are 3-minute bars, so this is about 12 minutes. But it was enough so that I wasn't willing on the second move to take anything back into this zone under any circumstances. And if we look a little bit further back, the next zone came down. And again, so I'm looking for a minimum of a 7 to 8 point rotation. This is roughly 1773 and a half. If I take 1773 and a half, I take out 7 points. Where does that put me? 1773 is going to bring me down to 366 roughly, correct? I'm awful with math, guys. So that's the top of the zone. That would be 6 points. And then if we want 7 or 8, that either puts you here or at the very back of the zone, one of the two. As long as you took the middle to the back of the zone, again with a 7 to 8 point rotation, you easily got your 2 points taken off, and I was done there. Again, these small consolidations and the small rotations relative to the amount we were coming down should have given you a warning sign. In just a minute, and if we'll look through this process right now, at this point, we're below Globex lows, but we're simply testing Friday's regular day lows. Again, this could have simply been a situation where we came down, tested the intraday low Friday, come back up, trapped above, and there was still an opportunity to move to the upside. However, obviously this is concerning that we broke the Globex lows at this point, but there was still an upside trade here. What was going on in the same period of time, however, is if we look over on NQ, and let me turn this into a 3-minute chart as well. Okay, let me get rid of all this stuff. Okay, there, that cleans that up a little bit. So this same time frame, where are my tools? My concern was, I said this morning, when we had come down and bounced off these lows back here, that we really hadn't gained that much pace. I know that it looked like we had gained, but relative to where we were on it was the last thing I left off with the market profile, NASDAQ really hadn't bounced that much, and I felt like it was susceptible for a retest of these lows. And obviously we got that, and that came about on 11:30. But immediately, we'd already traded below Globex lows, and then we'd also broken Friday's lows. This was an attempted trap trade right here that failed. And when this failed, that was really the death knell for this deal here today, because NQ, as I've been stating again and again, on up days has been leading ES up. And even on days when ES has been leading, NQ has dragged that thing down, right? So NQ getting as weak as it was a very, very critical issue, and obviously it dragged ES down for the balance of the day. That being said, the trade location over on ES, and let's switch back to that chart. Right, even with when we reversed out of here and we rolled down, and this same trade location, again, look at this. This is 1768, right? If I take 7 to 8 points, that's going to pitch you at 1761 to 1760, right in this trade location, right? And if you look, if you were at the back of the zone, you still got your rotation up. Now, I'm almost positive I took a trade at this location, and I took it at the very back. I'm pretty sure is where I got filled, because I got exactly a 2-point rotation out of that, which would have put us right here, which meant I had to get 1760 and change. I'll have to go back and look at my fill. But again, the 8-point rotation was critical from this last swing right here down to the downside. This is roughly, again, 1768. Would have pitched at 1760 and a quarter, exactly 8 points, right? And then we got a rotation up to give us exactly just over 2 points on the upside, and then we rolled back to the downside, broke. Now, one of the things that I said we look for through the course of the day, and again, I'm just stepping through exactly how I think through the day. I know that when I get through these to this time frame, 9:30, all the way to this 11 o'clock time frame, I know that it's possible to start looking for contra trades that, and other people know it, right? Obviously, I'm not the only one with the secret. People know this time of day the market tends to reverse and grind back up. I was sitting right here, actually, at 1757. It was a pretty small rotation. I was looking, kind of eyeing it. We missed by a tick. So on a down day like this, when I miss a zone by a tick and it gets a reversal like this, I go ahead and assume that the zone's been tagged, and then I move to the back of the zone. What was the key that kept me from taking the back of this zone was actually this right here. Okay, this formation lasted an extremely long period of time, relatively speaking, to the amount of down that we had. We finally got a little short squeeze out of it, but the short squeeze relative to how much we were down was almost nothing. We couldn't even get back to Friday's lows. When this failed at Friday's lows, and then we failed Globex lows there, first of all, this was second move. It shouldn't have been even a discussion as to whether we were going to come into the trade or not. But that put this zone at a, it was a concern just, and I simply waved the trade off. If you're looking for this and you see this consolidation in front of a zone, usually what happens with a trade like this is it comes down, and instead of ever getting this bounce up, we just simply flush straight down through it, right? You'll also want to have this area highlighted, because if we flush through it on the way down, next time we come back around to this 55, 57, it'll either reject very quickly, right? Like the first moment it gets into the zone, it'll reject straight out, or we'll flush straight through. Usually what I would expect instead is when we get to a zone that we're going to loiter there and pause for a moment. But if we pause and don't come out of the zone immediately, the odds of this getting blown straight through back on the upside are very high. So let's continue moving through the day. And one thing I want to point out, guys, particularly for my coaching clients, right? At this point, guys, we've got 1, 2, 3 successful trades, right, with the proper rotation measurement, correct? 3 trades. Your day should have and could have, right, been done at that point. And you had all the money you wanted in your pocket at that point. There was no need to stress. Remember, the key to the trading plan isn't that I get every zone right. I could care less about getting every zone right. The key to this deal is that When I started this out a long, long time ago, and other clients I've started back in April and May, and one in particular almost 2 years ago, which was the first guy I really coached one-on-one, they all started with small contract size, one, or at least relative to their capital they had. But most people started at one contract. They structured their trading so that every 7 to 10 successful trades, meaning even if they got stopped, as long as they executed the trade correctly, that was successful. And we had a 70% win rate on our trades, that we would advance that trade size. And we would, I'd work with each client. We build a trade plan so that even the increased trade size would not be an anxiety producing event, but it would just be a norm in a business plan, just like all of this was, right? I didn't have any special insight. You'll see on my chart, all I have is a tick chart down here. I don't have anything besides trade location to help me out. I don't use any trailing indicators. I hate stochastics and MACD and all that stuff. I think in day trading in particular, it does nothing but get you in late, right? The guy who got a MACD cross here got smoked to the downside, right? Same thing here. You got a MACD cross here. We pumped up. You got smoked to the downside. I've seen it. I've been trading for 20 years. MACD, STOs, Bollinger Bands, they work sometimes. They fail other times. It's just the nature of the beast. So moving on with that concept, right? So all the way up, I waved this trade off. The first trade into this zone was exactly where I said I was going to be looking for a long. I got it. I got my 2 points. We're now headed into this 10:30 point of day. This is usually not the best time of day to be taking a short, right? Especially on down days. We tend to have this pattern every day where we'll have a push up, down, then we curve around. It's rare days like today where we close at or near the lows, right? So looking at that, and I get into this middle day of the section, right? I'm really not overly eager to be taking trades here. That being said, okay, let me show you why that's an issue. When you get into this 11 o'clock period, this trade worked perfectly. I had clients that took it. They made their 2 points. They went on and were happy. I even had a few clients that took this short here at initial support, which was logical. Here's the issue you got to ask if you're going to trade this period of time. If you go back a couple of days last week, you'll see that during this period of time, zones were easily busted. They just got traded straight through. A lot of times they came straight through, tagged the stop, only to rotate back up. It can be a very frustrating experience. In a sense, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The odds of a successful rotation are lower during this time of day just because during New York lunch you have fewer participants. Europe has dropped off, and now you're looking at trying to figure out, well, is it going to bounce? Is it going to rotate? Are we going to be able to bust the zones, right, on thin volume? So I generally elect, if I can avoid trading in this time of day, not to do so. And that's exactly what I did. Is I left. I had some stuff to take care of, and I came back towards the latter end of 12 o'clock my time, 12:30, 12:40. So looking at that, okay, the next thing you have to decide is when we're all the way down. Look how far we're in the hole now. This is a 3-minute chart. Look how much room we've covered at this point, okay? I'm not overly eager to shorten this area. I did have NQ set up for me near the end of the day, but even that wasn't a great trade. I think I got 5 points on half of it, and then I just got tagged out on the second half of the trade. I thought that we might roll over to the downside. Didn't happen, or I got tagged on short squeeze right there at the close, right, where shorts were covering. Also, look, if you're trading this time of day, right, look how good the movement is all the way through here. Even the rotations are decent. They're small because we had so much movement to the downside, but the rotations are decent. Look at what starts happening here at 12:30 in the afternoon. This range that we were trading starts to collapse. This is 1745 to 1735, but it was started whipping back and forth, right? Look at it compared to these times of days to the downside moves, right? What that means is it was harder to get people extended on the downside. It was harder to get trade location because we weren't overshooting the zones at all. We were coming right to the top and rotating off of that. And then you have the guesswork that goes on in the last hour of the day. And if you look, if we stretch this out, yes, were the rotations good the last hour of the day? Yes, you can see that. We rotated from 1735 all the way to 1740, all the way down to 1734, 6-point rotations. But when you're realistic about it, okay, most, not all of us, there's some exceptions there, most of us are not quick enough to figure out how far this thing is going to rotate up, and how far it's going to rip down, right? This came down just enough if you took it the second time to stop you out, only to shoot back up over here. You know, when you're taking a second trade in this location, that is incredibly frustrating. By the same token, somebody who thought the market was going to go out at the lows of the day, like I did, right? We're damn close to getting that low of the day, right? But look at this. This guy shorted it here. He gets terrible trade location. He thinks he's going to close out the low of the day, right? Where maybe he has a shot at 32. And maybe he does. We don't know what these... We still have 3 minutes left to go, and we could certainly get a panic here in the last 3 minutes, right? This guy probably got stopped out. This is a big rotation from 35, right, all the way up to 39. That's 4 points. And most traders I speak to have difficulty holding a 2-point move against them, much less a 4 or 5 point move against them. In NQ, same thing. I take an equivalent. I usually use a 4-point stop, which in NQ equates to, I really need this thing to close below 1735 on the close here. For some options that I have. We'll see if they do it. Some people, right, have a difficult time with a 10-point stop on NQ, and I'm going to show you that trade in just a second when I go over it. I apologize, I got distracted here as we're closing up shop. I'm really hoping they can keep it below 35. I had sold some binary options that expire in 2 minutes earlier today. This is all difficult. If you want to trade it, be my guest. Most people have a very hard time, and less experienced really requires almost an expertise to trade in here very well. This usually this is an hour where I hear all the time, I made great profits through the day, I gave it all back in the last hour, or I was down a little bit and then I blew it out in the last hour, I really got killed. Or someone will say, I really thought, you know, Simon, you show, I've heard this before, you show me how we usually close like this, right? And I really thought we were going to reverse the last hour and come all the way up like this. You know, maybe we'd have a 10-point rotation up. But the fact is, and I always reiterate in the last hour, first of all, closing drives are extremely common to go directional, right? Meaning we're getting what we're getting now both ways, both in up markets and in down markets. Why? Everyone's running out of time to square their positions. Anyone who's panicking right now, this is the time to panic. And as you can see, what we're doing right now is we're panicking. Whoever was stuck and looking for that rotation up, they just took a 3 to 4 point loss to the downside. They just closed it at 1733, right? So again, I discourage people from trading the last part of the day. What I was looking for now specifically on NQ, and I usually don't go over the chart, and I'm not going to go over the setup. I generally reserve this for going over with my more experienced and more advanced coaching clients. However, looking at the end of the day here, okay, first of all, this is clearly trend day down. By the way, this is the other problem with looking for a reversal on ES. As I've been stating again and again, NQ has been leading the way both up and down, and this thing has not had a decent rotation. We've not had one higher high, even going into the end of the day till right here after the close. That was the first point where we had where we traded above the prior swing high, right? Which, if you want to count this as a swing high, and even then we weren't able to get down. We just set a new low, a new swing low right over here. Okay. NQ leads us. If I don't see NQ, I've seen days where relative to, let's say this were ES, and NQ would be looking like that, and then ES catches up to the NQ move up, right? But today, this is where again, there's not a direct correlation between ES and NQ, but this is a day where you have to look and go, well, I think I at least want to wait, and this is a 3-minute chart. This is a small time frame. I think I at least want to wait until I see a series of higher lows and higher highs, right? Consolidate before I chase this thing up. So essentially, what I was looking for, I shorted this 34.37 right in here. It was probably a crummy trade looking back on it. I covered a little bit of it here at 34.32 right in this area, and then I got stopped out here right on the close. Well, either here or here, one of the two places I got stopped out right when we got on 34.37 right in here. And I must have shorted, this is where I shorted, and this is where I got stopped, excuse me, because I shorted right near the bottom of the hour. So that's really all I have to comment about that. When you see markets reverse, and I want to go show you something here on the volume profile really quickly. Okay, this was my concern this morning on NQ. Again, it's in the trade review in the morning. Okay, and there was two things that I pointed out on the 24-hour charts. I'll show you on the ES. First of all, we started one timing the other day. We're unable to penetrate the prior day's high, and we did penetrate the prior day's low. That was a concern, but the bigger concern was like really, if this was our top, approximately right here is halfway up, just above 35.50, and we couldn't get anywhere close to it. As a matter of fact, we couldn't even get above this point right here, and we just had a series of lower highs all the way through this, right, on a bigger time frame. And if you look at, now let's go look at ES real quick, which looked a little bit healthier till today, all right? And my guess was that there was a rotation going out of ES, out of NQ into ES. So let me clean this chart up really quick. Again, I'm not a volume profile expert. I just like using the charts to help me pinpoint certain locations that help me out. Okay, so this is what we were looking at this morning. And this is what we were looking at this morning. And I pointed out right here that we were attempting either a double bottom right here, right, or a higher low, right? This was our Fed day, our last 2 Fed days ago when we shot up and they said they were not looking at taper. I don't know if y'all recall that, but we just had a huge up day, right? And also, if you look, this is also a trap trade here, right? We've broken out. Now we failed below. This was the bottom. This is the top of the previous range, top of the current range. So this was an attempted double bottom, maybe even a triple bottom if you went back far enough, right? And we needed to hold this area, and I said as much as if we didn't hold that 1760, 1762, we had a huge problem. Obviously, we broke that early. But this was actually structurally okay, right? We were still kind of basing at the bottom, and we could have traded back up here. We were still far away from halfway back, but structurally it looked okay. Compare that to what NQ looks like. Where we simply came down and tagged a low. Let me erase this. And maybe they were working on a higher low here from here to here, but it just didn't look very good to me this morning. And I also pointed out that we had a wedge forming on the 24-hour like this. And clearly that wedge broke to the downside. And again, that's right at the end of the video. I said if we break this wedge, that we're probably going to have a move one way or the other. So those were your clues. If you got beat up today, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. The key to everyday survival, and I'm going to close with this. The key to everyday survival on all of these trades, whether you're trading ES, NQ, bonds, doesn't much matter. I'll pull this before I finish. I'll finish that thought, then I want to pull this up real quick. ES, NQ, bonds, gold, crude, doesn't matter. Simply lose less than what you have an ability to make the following day on a good day, right? At the worst case scenario, 2 good days. And B, make sure that you actually have an edge, right? How do you know? In my case, my edge requires that I have a 70% win rate. Why? My stops are bigger than my gains, generally speaking, right? Certainly my first scales. So I have to have a consistently high win rate. I can tell you across the board with my clients, I do get that. They get that as well. And it is doable, right? Don't listen to anyone who tells you it's not doable. However, what do we forego in that, right? Most traders are trying to capture, right? When you look at their trades, they're trying to capture this move right here. If I can only get in here and get this close, right? If I hit this home run, I'll double my account. And I take the exact opposite approach. I could give a damn about this move right here. I know my odds are so low of catching it and actually being able to hold it. I'm not a swing trader, generally speaking, unless I just caught this short, which, by the way, I had a short up here somewhere. I think I shorted right here, and I took 10 points on it on NQ. Again, that's on StockTwitch. You can see it time-stamped, right? But I know my odds of actually holding this trade are like nil. Just not going to happen where I put on a full boat and I'm able to hold it unless I see something very special happening and I'm just not that bright. But if you take small chunks of ES along the way and you take small chunks every day and you increase your trade size as you move along, have a plan for it, make it logical, you can make as much money in the market and you will not care about the market going down in a huge way. Who cares? It can drop another 100 points from here and I'll still be fine. I'll be making money pretty much day in, day out. Why? Because my focus is on where's support and resistance, where am I going to get the rotation, and I'm not being a pig. As a matter of fact, I'm giving it back to them early if anything, and letting them have it, and it keeps me out of trouble. The downside is I never report that, hey, I just made 15 points on an ES swing. It doesn't happen for me. But on the flip side of that coin, I never report that I've lost 20 points or 30 points on ES as well, or that I've wiped out my account. And I can tell you the feedback from my clients has generally been very positive. One last thing that I want to show, and then I'm going to jump because I have a coaching client. Looked at the big picture this morning, right? I said potential double bottom right there. Okay, let me make this bigger so everyone can see it. Okay, it doesn't take a degree to do this work here. You can see very easily we broke this, right? We opened below, we came up, we backside tested. I don't know if y'all can see that, so I'm going to highlight it. We backside tested. You can draw this trend line. I did nothing special, right? We're clearly broken. We got to this downside of this trend line, right? Right in the zone, right there. You can see that. Provided great trade location. What did we do? We broke down, we came back up, and in this case, they did respect the backside of that test right here. And that gave us to the roll to the downside. We now have a new channel working right here that we'll have to see broken sooner or later, right? Looking at that on a closer, in a closer channels, that would be the 1500 tick chart. Again, I posted this to my clients early this morning, and I showed it in the market preview. You can go and see there that I posted this, that I did cover this towards the end of the market preview. Look at this. This thing worked like clockwork, guys. It's just another way of looking at the market. This is our open right here. Let me spread this out a little bit. I don't even key off these things. I just use them as a general guidelines for where are we going, what is happening with the market, and where all this tells me is where it's been, right? They don't necessarily get respected. Again, white lines on the highway, not supposed to be crossed, but they get crossed, right? They get crossed over under, and then they come back above sometimes. But if you look, follow this, right? We opened up. Again, this is from a 1500 chart, so it looks a little bit different. The look is right. In this case, open, downside test at the bottom of this channel, came up to the back side of this up channel that was older, right? It was stretching further back. Rejected there, came down, broke the bottom of the channel, came up for a backside test, and it was good night from there, right? All the way down. We obviously have a new channel in here, somewhere in here. I'll find it tonight, and I'll post it again. There's lots of ways. My way of trading the market by itself isn't necessarily the best. It's not effective because of the zones. The zones give me great trade location. The way I trade is effective because I use the same methodology over and over and over again, and I control my downside when it's not functioning for me. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it, guys. I hope that helped y'all out. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me, tradingperform@gmail.com, or you can hit me on StockTwits or Twitter. I hope everyone had a great day. If you're losing money, last piece I have, if you're losing money in your account, you took a huge drawdown in the last couple of weeks because of expanded volatility, the one thing I would extend that I wish I had done in my own trading career at times, and that everyone I've spoken to has taken a large drawdown. Stop, catch your breath, go back to paper trading, right? Make sure that you actually have a methodology that works, okay? And prove that methodology to yourself. Your money is the most precious tool that you have in this business. There's no rules preventing you from blowing yourself up. It's all up to you. Just slow down long enough for you to catch your breath and figure out what you're doing. And even if my trading style, right, doesn't fit your particular personality or your particular risk levels, there's lots of good guys out there who both swing trade, day trade, they trade other contracts than I trade. And if you're looking for a match, email me again. I'll be happy to refer. There's multiple guys out there I'd be happy to refer y'all to that may be a better match. But don't keep burning your money. It's not necessary. Anyone can be profitable trading futures, stocks, bonds, you name it. Anyone can do it. So that's my last of my preaching. Have a great night, guys. I'm going to go and help my wife for a couple minutes and then get back on the phone with the client. Have a great night.